A U.S. aircraft carrier based in the Pacific has begun heading toward the Middle East following reports of problems aboard one of the two carriers that are already in the region. The USS George Washington left port in Vietnam and is expected to arrive in the Persian Gulf in the coming weeks to replace the USS Abraham Lincoln. That ship has been taking part in the U.S. war against Iran in a record-breaking deployment of nearly 250 days at sea. There have been multiple reports of mental health issues, low morale, and supply problems aboard. The Pentagon denies these issues but says the war has made a port stop impossible. Let's bring in Alison Bath here. She's an investigative journalist with Stars and Stripes. That's the U.S. military's independently run news outlet for the armed forces and their communities. Alison has just published an article about the conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln and the toll it's taking on sailors and their families. Alison, thanks for joining us. You write about the worsening mental health of sailors who've spent months at sea with no end in sight. What are some of the signs that people are near the breaking point there?
I think some of the biggest signs are coming from their families and also from some of the sailors that I spoke to as well. I think one of the things that were the most poignant and the most meaningful indications were some of the things that spouses told me. For instance, there was a mother that wrote us and told us that it was getting very difficult for her to listen to her son and his friends talk about jumping off the ship for relief. I can't imagine what that would be like for a parent to hear that. And then I think there was an especially poignant and telling moment at a meeting that the Navy held with spouses in San Diego last week. And during that meeting, a woman told the officials there that she had received a message from her husband that very day that he hoped that he didn't wake up the next day. And I think those are some signals. The sailors are telling me, these are tough people. They are dedicated to their jobs. They understand the responsibilities that they have and the obligations. They want to meet them, and they have been. They've been participating in active combat for 40 days. They've been on that ship in excess of 250, and they're doing that job and then some. What they're doing is they're holding up their hands and they're saying, we need a break. And they, being on a Navy ship for 250 days straight without a regular port call is very, very difficult. And the sense of isolation that you feel, the sense of, that you're not living in a normal world.
How has the Navy leadership responded to these concerns? Are they taking action?
The spouses and the family members brought up many of these concerns at the meeting. And the spouses that I spoke with told me that the Navy officials there listened to them, and they didn't directly address any specific concern. But what they did say was that they pointed to mental health resources that were on the ship, such as there are mental health professionals, there are doctors, there are chaplains. And they also said that they were trying to get additional resources, those type of resources, to the ship.
You mentioned that the USS Abraham Lincoln has spent a record number of days at sea without a port stop. That's, without a port call, over 250 days. Is there no capacity in the U.S. Navy, the largest Navy in the world, to rotate those sailors out and give them some much-needed rest and relaxation?
Well, I think it's important to know a couple of things. First of all, there are 11 carriers in the U.S. Navy, and those 11 carriers at any particular time are in various stages: deployment, pre-deployment, training, and maintenance and repair. And only a few of them are actively deployed right now. Lincoln is one of them. There is a carrier in the, it was in the Pacific. And there also is the Bush, which is also in the Arabian Sea. It's also important to know that the Navy has a fleet that allows it to surge forces almost anywhere in the world. And it can do that very easily. Right now, there are, in addition to the carriers, there are about 13 destroyers in the region, 2 in the Mediterranean, 1 in the Red Sea, and 10, some of them affiliated with the carrier strike groups, in the Arabian Sea. But it's also important to understand that they're in combat operations right now, or in a combat theater, and that does limit port options.
So, what you just explained to me, I presume you're saying that they don't have the capacity to swap out the crews. Is that correct?
What I would say is that my reporting didn't cover that, and I can't speak to larger Navy strategy. What I can say is what they have.
Okay. How much frustration is being directed at the Trump administration and its seeming inability to resolve this standoff with Iran, which, of course, is behind this long deployment?
You know, in my reporting, spouses and sailors and family members didn't speak about the Trump administration. What they talked about was their frustrations with making sure, the families and the spouses wanted to make sure that their sailors were safe. They wanted to make sure that they were well fed. They wanted to make sure that their mental health and that their physical health was being looked after. The sailors just want to come home. They've had a nearly 9-month deployment right now, and they just want an end date.
Are you concerned, Alison, that the strain that the Iran war is having on the U.S. Navy, that could carry through into the future?
As I said earlier, I, have been reporting on the Navy now for about 5 years. They have a large fleet. They have forces that they can surge anywhere in the world, and the capability to be where they need to be when they can be or need to be.
Alison, thank you. So that was Alison Bath, an investigative journalist with Stars and Stripes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.